This monster rises every 23 years to claim dozens of human lives. One night, a terrified young man clutching a machete runs for his life from a mysterious pursuer. The attacker hurls a shuriken at him but misses. Desperate, the young man bolts onto a road and waves frantically for help. Just as he reaches a passing car, a monstrous creature swoops down and snatches him, vanishing into the sky. Kenny Brandon, the driver of the car, steps out in shock, only to witness a machete fall from the sky, followed by the severed arm of the creature itself. The horrifying entity is the Creeper, a being that awakens every 23 years to feed on humans for 23 days, turning small-town lives into living nightmares. The story leaps 23 years forward. The time for the Creeper's next ruthless feast has arrived. Police officers stumble upon the Creeper's truck, packed with victims' bodies and human bones. As an officer peers inside the truck, a hidden metal grate suddenly drops from the roof, skewering his arm. Sergeant Davis Tubbs orders the truck to be towed to a parking lot, but as they prepare to move it, the truck's doors mysteriously slam shut on their own. Soon after, Sheriff Dan Tashtigo arrives with reinforcements. Sergeant Tubbs informs him that the Creeper has already claimed the lives of 3 officers, a prisoner in custody, and a young man named Derry Jenner. At that moment, the Creeper's truck releases a massive spear from its exhaust pipe, heightening the terror and the stakes of the hunt. The officers manage to dodge the spear, which pierces only the vehicle. Sergeant Tubbs briefs Sheriff Tashtigo on the situation, explaining that no one has been able to stop the monster. Their conversation is interrupted by deputies reporting that the Creeper's truck has been towed to an impound lot. Tashtigo reacts in panic, demanding the truck be stopped and surrounded immediately. Confused by his urgency, Tubbs presses for an explanation. The sheriff reveals that this horror has happened before, and the Creeper is far more dangerous than anyone realizes. Meanwhile, tow truck driver Frank and Deputy Dana Lang are transporting the Creeper's truck. Sergeant Tubbs radios them, assuring reinforcements are already en route. At that moment, the Creeper emerges from the truck, cutting through the chains with an axe and reclaiming his vehicle. Shocked, Frank and Dana leap from the tow truck, watching in disbelief as the Creeper's truck drives itself, with the creature perched on the roof. Dana attempts to contact dispatch, but no one responds. Soon, Frank and Dana spot the Creeper's truck again on the road. As Dana looks out for the Creeper, he suddenly lands behind her, ambushing Frank. Dana quickly draws her gun and aims it at the monster, but the Creeper makes it clear she shouldn't pull the trigger. Stunned, Dana freezes, unable to shoot the monster, even as it grabs Frank and drags him into the Creeper's truck. After regaining her composure, Dana attempts to chase after the creature, but she's too late. Meanwhile, Sergeant Tubbs and Sheriff Tashtigo are focused on tracking down the Creeper's truck. Tashtigo tells Tubbs that the monster can sense fear, using it to choose his victims. The Creeper never stays in one place for more than a day, and now they must head north, following the crows that always fly behind him. The sheriff also admits that he faced the Creeper 23 years ago. The next day, a crow lands at the doorstep of a woman named Galen Brandon and caws loudly. Galen steps outside, and suddenly, she has a vision of her son, Kenny, who didn't survive his encounter with the Creeper 23 years ago. Kenny's ghost warns his mother that the Creeper is returning because he left a part of himself on Earth. He had buried the monster's hand somewhere on the property, and now the Creeper will do anything to reclaim it. Kenny urges his mother to leave the house immediately and to think of her granddaughter Addison, as they are now in grave danger. Meanwhile, Addison wakes up in the house. She looks out the window and sees her grandmother talking to herself, unaware that Kenny's ghost has come to visit her. Addison heads to the barn to feed her beloved horse but notices that they've run out of hay. Riding her horse, she heads to her grandmother's house and tells Galen she's going into town to get some. Galen insists they don't have the money for that. Suddenly, Galen asks Addison to leave the house for a couple of days. Confused, Addison doesn't understand what's going on, while Galen gazes into the distance, cryptically saying she's expecting guests. Meanwhile, Sheriff Tashtigo gathers a group of locals at the police station, all seeking revenge against the Creeper for their loved ones' deaths. He asks Sergeant Tubbs to join them, knowing he's an excellent shot. The residents gather at the station, and one of them, Michael, brings a machine gun, determined to avenge his father, whose heart the Creeper tore out 23 years ago. Addison stops by her friend's house to ask for some hay for her horse and tells her about her grandmother's strange behavior. Her friend then notices their rabbit is caught in a trap set by her brother Kirk and demands they free it. Kirk argues that rabbits only damage their garden, and the girl accuses him of cruelty. After learning that there's no hay left at her friend's house, Addison heads to Buddy Hook's store, the boy who's in love with her. Meanwhile, Kirk leaves to ride motorcycles with his friends. Soon, Kirk and 3 of his friends discover the Creeper's truck hidden among the trees. They suspect it belongs to the monster but dismiss it as a hoax. The boys curiously examine the truck, and one of them urinates on it. Suddenly, they hear the cawing of crows overhead. Instead of leaving, they decide to vandalize the truck. One of the boys throws a rock at it, but the truck seems to defend itself, sending the rock ricocheting back. Suddenly, the truck's rear doors fly open, and the boys are horrified to find real human bodies inside. As Kirk peers further in, a metal grate nearly impales him. Finally realizing it's time to leave, the truck releases its rope spear, piercing Kirk's leg. His friends rush to help, but their efforts to pull it out are in vain. Then, out of nowhere, the creeper's truck reappears and starts pulling the spear back into its exhaust pipe. Panicked, one of the boys abandons his friend and runs to his motorcycle, while the other two continue trying to assist Kirk. Soon, another victim of the monster falls in front of the group, and the creeper himself lands on top of the truck, sending them into a state of terror. The friends are running from the creeper, leaving Kirk behind, but the monster aims and pierces both guys with a single spear. Having dealt with 3 of the 4 guys and loading them into the van, the creeper is about to drive off when he suddenly catches the scent of urine and goes into a rage. Thanks to his unique sense of smell, he realizes that the guy who peed on his truck has escaped and decides to go after him for revenge. The monster quickly catches up with the guy and flies off with him into the sky. Meanwhile, Addison arrives at the Hooks family store to buy hay for her horse. Buddy is thrilled to see her but notices that she's not on the customer list. He suggests she talk to his father, but the man refuses to give her hay on credit. Frustrated, Addison heads to another store, hoping they'll be more accommodating. However, Buddy decides to talk to his father personally and explains that Addison's horse has nothing to eat. His father insists he can't help, knowing they won't pay him back. Secretly, Buddy grabs some hay and catches up with Addison, bringing her the good news. Soon, they arrive at Addison's home and feed her horse. Buddy confesses his feelings to her, but Addison can't return them yet. Their conversation is interrupted by the screams of Galen, who is digging something up on top of the hill. Buddy watches in surprise as Addison's eccentric grandmother goes about her crazy task, while Addison thanks him for the hay and asks him to leave. But Buddy suggests they go to a friend's plantation to get more hay, and Addison agrees. Soon, Kenny arrives to see Galen. He asks her what she's doing, and she says she's trying to find the reason the creeper took his life. Kenny demands she stop, but Galen doesn't give up and finally uncovers the very hand the monster wants. She places the severed hand on the table, and when she tries to touch it, the hand begins to move. Startled, she pulls back, but then decides to take hold of the creeper's hand. The creeper's hand grips Galen's fingers and lifts her off the ground, sending her into a strange, trance-like state. Meanwhile, Buddy and Addison arrive at the plantation. They're shocked to see horses running freely through the woods, and then notice that the plantation owner, Mr. Bernardi, and his men are hiding under cars and tanks. Buddy approaches Bernardi and asks what's going on. The frightened man urges them to call the sheriff and advises them to leave. Buddy returns to the car and calls the owner to find out who they're hiding from. Bernardi tells him he saw the terrifying creature grab one of his men and asks Buddy to carefully sneak into the barn and grab some weapons. At that moment, a barely alive man crawls up to Buddy's window. The couple, horrified, pulls back and sees the creeper tipping over a tanker right behind them. Buddy starts the car, hoping to drive away quickly, but suddenly the creeper appears beside them. He breathes in their fear, but chooses Addison as his victim. With a deafening scream, the creeper shatters the car window and grabs the girl, flying off with her. Meanwhile, Sheriff Tashtigo and Sergeant Tubbs are on their way to Galen's house. On the way, Tashtigo explains that he met Galen 23 years ago when her son Kenny and his girlfriend became victims of the creeper on their way to prom. When they arrive at the house, the officers notice Galen on the porch, but she barely reacts to their presence. Suddenly, she announces that the creeper will be coming for them soon, then turns around, revealing her bandaged arm. Worried, Tashtigo asks what happened, but Galen doesn't answer. Instead, she asks if he brought what's needed to destroy the monster. Finally, she tells the sheriff and sergeant that 23 years ago, Kenny found the creeper's hand and brought it home, hiding it in the hayloft. But the horses couldn't stand being near it and panicked, scattering in all directions. So, Kenny took the hand outside, shot it with a rifle, and buried it on the hill. He thought he had destroyed it, but the hand was still alive, and now her son is asking her to leave because the creeper will definitely come back for it. Galen warns that if they touch the monster's hand, which she has hidden under a vase, they will learn something terrifying about its origin. Tubbs doesn't believe the strange woman, but Tashtigo is still curious and wants to touch the hand, hoping to uncover the creeper's secrets that might help them destroy it. The sheriff knows that if they can't defeat the monster, their loved ones will have to face it again in 23 years. Meanwhile, in the creeper's truck, Kirk and Addison are coming too, having been wrapped in bags by the monster but left alive by accident. They rise, trying to free themselves, but freeze when they hear the monster opening the van doors. The creeper grabs his shuriken and heads out for another hunt, giving Addison and Kirk the chance to escape. They notice various knives on the walls of the van and try to reach them to cut the ropes before the creeper returns. Only after removing the bags from their heads do Addison and Kirk recognize each other and celebrate the reunion. Addison doesn't understand why the monster left them alive, but Kirk guesses that the creeper was just in a hurry. As they try to escape, Addison rushes to the van door, but Kirk stops her, warning that only the creeper can open it. Kirk suggests they try to get out through the cab. Addison spots a chain there and decides to pull it, but this triggers a deafening horn. Kirk then checks the door handle, crawling closer, when suddenly, as soon as the seat is pressed, another spear shoots out and pierces Kirk's head. With only Addison left alive in the van, she still tries to open the back door. Soon, the creeper returns with a new victim, but the girl manages to hide under some burlap and stays perfectly still. Meanwhile, the creeper hunters arrive at Galen's house. They cautiously take the hand out of the vase, and then, just to be safe, they position themselves behind Sheriff Tashtigo, who decides to touch the monster's hand. A couple of seconds later, the creeper's hand suddenly lifts the sheriff's arm and throws him to the ground. Tashtigo convulses, his eyes rolling back. Sergeant Tubbs, who refused to participate in the so-called ritual, quickly rushes to help the sheriff. After a while, Tashtigo comes to after the shocking experience. Michael also wants to touch the creeper's hand, but Sergeant Tubbs forbids him. Tubbs tries to destroy the hand by striking it with a shovel, but the team stops him. Suddenly, the police receive a report of a new creeper attack and locate his truck. Tashtigo directs the group to the scene and orders Galen to find Addison and not to return with her until the creeper hunting season is over. Tashtigo and Tubbs head out to track down the monster. Soon, they catch up with his truck on the highway, and the sheriff orders the sergeant to shoot the tires. The bullet hits the target, but it ricochets. The sergeant is confused and continues shooting, but all the bullets come back toward the police officers. Suddenly, a bomb falls out of the truck onto the road. The police manage to dodge it, but it starts following them, and Tubbs shoots at it. Soon, in the distance, Mike's car with a mounted machine gun appears. He is heading straight toward the creeper's truck, ready to take on the monster. The police try to warn Mike that the bullets are ricocheting off the truck, but he can't hear them and starts firing. All the bullets immediately return to Mike, and the creeper releases 2 more bombs onto the road. One explodes near Mike's car, and the other goes off right in front of the police. The explosion flips Tashtigo and Tubbs' vehicle, sending it crashing onto the shoulder, but the officers manage to survive. As they recover, the creeper's truck stops nearby. Tubbs grabs a rifle and waits for the monster to emerge from his indestructible truck. Seeing the creeper, the sergeant opens fire, but the monster easily deflects the bullets with a massive axe. Suddenly, Tubbs shoots the creeper's hat off, enraging him. The creeper throws a shuriken at Tubbs, but the sergeant blocks it with a rifle. Tubbs then grabs a pistol and aims at the creeper, who is now advancing toward him with an axe in hand. At that moment, Tashtigo draws the monster's attention toward himself. He runs to the surviving machine gun and opens fire on the creeper, who rises into the air. However, the monster falls directly on Tashtigo, driving the axe through his head. Tubbs watches from a distance, hoping that this is the end of the creeper, but within seconds, the creature rises as if nothing happened and pulls the axe out of Tashtigo's head. The sergeant realizes he is powerless against the immortal monster and simply runs away. That night, Galen prepares to face the creeper and waits for him in the barn. Soon, Kenny returns to her and says she won't be able to defeat the monster. He also informs her that the creeper has kidnapped Addison, just as Buddy drives up to the barn. He deeply regrets not being able to help the girl and is now determined to save her at any cost. Meanwhile, the creeper peers into the truck, sensing fear, and discovers that Addison is still alive. Enraged, the monster lunges at her, but she manages to trick him into his own trap. Addison crawls toward the driver's cabin, and as the creeper's head comes level with the seat, she pulls the handle. The spear pierces the creeper's head, and he writhes in agony, losing one eye. At that moment, Addison manages to escape the truck. She narrowly avoids being caught by the retractable grate, but fortunately, the bars only snag her boot. However, the creeper soon recovers, removes the spear, and rushes after Addison. He attempts to take flight, but due to his injury, he can't. He throws a shuriken at her but misses because of his lost eye. Then he retrieves the spear again and aims at Addison, but only manages to pierce her jacket. Enraged, the monster continues chasing her with the axe, but suddenly, he is struck by a truck. While the creeper lies unconscious on the road, Addison finally manages to escape. The driver climbs out of the truck to see what happened and is horrified to find the creeper's severed leg. Terrified, he calls the police, but the monster attacks him at that moment. The creeper then heads toward Galen's house, where he finds a note that says "We know what you are" and a dried hand pierced by a rod. In a fit of rage, the monster breaks the hand and emits a deafening scream, causing Crows to fall lifelessly to the ground. Meanwhile, Addison stumbles along the road. Hearing the sound of a car, she hides in the field, but soon Buddy and Galen find her. The three embrace, relieved to have survived their encounter with the creeper. A few days later, Addison sees Buddy off at the school basketball game and kisses him goodbye. It seems that another hunting season for the creeper has come to an end, and the town can finally live in peace for the next 23 years. And then, 23 years later, Trish Jenner, the sister of Derry, one of the creeper's victims, records a message to the public. She urges people to arm themselves and fight the monster to prevent history from repeating itself, as she is determined to take revenge on the creeper for her brother. How would you take on the monster if you were in the hero's shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments, give a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.